Hey guys, Rich from Richmond Gaming, and welcome back to Scum and Villainy, the Star Wars Legion show where we have a brand new guest on every single episode and we break down one of their favourite commanders in one of their favourite factions. Today we have gone pretty old school, and joining me once again, it's the second time he's appeared on the show, is Outrider Matt from the Outrider podcast. So Matt, how are you doing, sir?
Doing very well, and I will be playing the part of Scum today. Scum and Villainy.
See, I called them Rebel Scum, and now it's confusing because it's also Scum and Villainy, so I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I don't think they would see themselves as Scum, but as an ex-Imperial player, I definitely did used to see them on the Scum side. But thank you for joining us again. We've had 1.5 of the Outriders on now. So we had you on the first ever episode, on the first ever show that we did, and then we were fortunate enough to get Dan on for the first ever episode of Scum and Villainy, where we went through everyone's favourite leader in Iden, and then we've got you back on. So thank you for joining us. So you've already mentioned you're going down the Rebel Scum route. Who is it you're bringing today for us to talk about?
So Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Leia, all of these rebel heroes pale in comparison to our friend Gideon, the humble rebel officer.
He is, and for anyone that doesn't know why we're calling him Gideon, obviously it is just Rebel Officer. Kind of the somewhat of a predecessor, wasn't it, to Star Wars Legion was Imperial Assault, and I think he was one of the. He was a character in the original box, wasn't he? I think he was one of the rebel officer that was in the original box, and the artwork is uncanny. So yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, go and take a look at that. But yes, you're bringing us the humble rebel officer, coming in at 45 points. So why have you brought him along, Dan? What's so good in your opinion about the rebel officer?
So the thing that the rebel officer brings to the table is allowing me to bring other things to the table. The cheap price point is obviously a really big selling aspect for it. I've got 11 activations in this list I'll be talking about, and the rebel officer, while it allows other units flexibility to get into the list, actually brings quite a bit to the table. Doesn't have the strongest command hand, but it's getting better as time goes on with the new Echo Base Defenders list.
Yes,
there's some options there, but I'm going with my OG double T47, all the run by the rebel officer list today.
Fantastic.
But he's won me games before, just being in the right place at the right time, keeping the troops moving, and I will be calling him Gideon basically the entire time.
And I think as we rightly should. So let's break down his card really quickly then, because as you say, yes, there's definitely a little bit less text on his card than some of the other commanders available to to the rebels. But so his card will say 50 points, but actually he did have a reduction, didn't he, down to 45. He has the keyword take cover 1. This does cost an action, but as we saw with Dan, we went through Becky's card that she was dishing out the aim tokens. This guy's dishing out the dodge tokens. He's got an inspire 1 there as well, meaning that he can remove 1 suppression token from another friendly unit, which is really, really handy. Just making sure that they get those actual 2 actions within a turn is really good. And then he's not a bad little shooter himself with sharpshooter 1. He's got a surge to crit on his offensive, hasn't he? And he's got the A180 blaster pistol, which is only rage 1 and 2, but one red he wishes, 1 black and 1 white die. And then he's got a command slot and a gear slot in there as well, hasn't he? So what are you putting on him, Matt? Is he bringing anything other than just his bear card, or?
I just run him because I'm really tight on points, and I don't have a lot of upgrades into my list with the vigilance, because being able to hand out a dodge and then hold on to that dodge until the following turn just means you can put dodge on somebody else. So I find it very useful, especially since he's usually I'm pushing out my T47s, my ATRTs up front, and then my rebels, the troopers are hanging out in the back, that kind of thing, and he's able to keep them going with the inspire and all that. I keep him cheap and cheerful, and he does pretty well for the amount of points I put into him.
Yeah, I think Vigilance is a really nice card. Obviously, a newish card to the game. You know, it wasn't there. You know, it wasn't there from the original box, was it? But I'm finding a lot of use for it running my Scum and Villainy lists at the moment on those pikes and on those blacks and operatives. Being able to put Vigilance on usually a capo, especially because of all like the independent words that they've
Oh
got
yeah.
as well. So yeah, I really like that, and I'm seeing it being taken quite a lot in lists at the moment. So that makes sense. Cool. So we've got one rebel officer in there. Are you taking a second commander at all, or are you just leaving it with the one?
So when I make this switch over to the Echo base build, I'm definitely planning to have him as like a backup commander, so I can go have fun with Han and out front. But as it is with the this current T-47 list, he's the one running the show. That's it. He's my only
Excellent.
commander.
Excellent, cool. So what else have we got then, Dan? You've already spoiled us a little bit and told us about the
Yep.
T-47. So should we jump into them and see what loadout it is you're looking for with those?
Sure. Yeah. And this is my old comfortable pair of jeans list that I go to, when I'm not feeling like, oh, let me break out this separatist or let me try, some new list building. I've had this variation for almost, a year and a half now. So without too many changes. But yeah, starting out with the noble, handsome, and effective rebel officer Gideon with vigilance, as I said. So that just brings them up to the original 50 points.
Yeah.
So having that stapled on is real nice. Then two squads of rebel veterans, absolutely just showing up. They're happy to be there. No upgrades or anything like that. And then I've got two of the Mark II medium blasters. They're great. I figure if you're bringing the rebel veterans, you're going to have those blasters in there backing them up. And then I've actually really gotten a lot of use out of rebel troopers with some DLT-20A. They got
Okay.
some poke on them, so that's like the only upgrades I put on my troopers right there. And they're mostly just, as I said, for hanging out, holding onto those objectives when I need to do that. And they can actually get out there and poke a little bit. And the DLT-20A is actually really nice for that, giving them a critical one.
Cool. So I
Yeah.
mean, what else is going in there then?
Well, now we get to the fun stuff. This is where I like to skew with the armor keyword. Starting out with two ATRTs with the rotary blasters on them. So
Okay.
looking for those critical hits in there. Just try to have them cover objectives as much as I can, supporting the infantry if they need to, or going after targets that are going to have trouble dealing with them. And then the real meat of the list, which is the double T-47 setup, which are running two hotshot pilots, the free harpoon, which has actually done quite a bit of killing on its own, and then HQ uplinks, because you really can't run without them. Gideon can't be everywhere at once, so them being able to, grab a activation that turn can make a big difference.
Yeah, no,
And that's
yeah, absolutely, because yeah, especially if they go out of range as well, which is somewhat likely, I suppose,
very
with
likely,
what
yes.
they've with how far they move up there, and yeah, I suppose that power harpoon is pretty nice as well, because obviously its normal weapon is just a fixed front weapon, isn't it, on the T-47,
Yeah, that
which it's nice. It's got impact 3, so really nice against other armored units. So yeah, okay, cool. Well, that's a nice looking list. I must admit, it's a long time since I've played both either with or against a T-47. I think back way when I was first playing the game, they were so expensive points wise
yeah.
that they were just not viable to be able to run. But they've come down quite considerably, haven't they? In points, I think like 120 or something now. I think, or 120 or 130. I think it might be. So yeah, I gather that because they've come down in price so much or cost so much, they're just far more viable now. So when you're approaching your games then, Matt, what's the sort of game plan? What does the sort of setup look like for you on a typical game?
So usually I like to save my deployment. Well, I'll put out the cheap troopers first, trying because I know I can redeploy them as I need to, depending on what the setup for the field is looking like. Long March can be very different from battle lines and all that kind of stuff we know. But you can also, well, obviously because the land speeders are so fast, I like to hold them back as far as possible, because what I'm really looking forward to is getting a first last scenario with them, maybe using the HQ uplink. And if I can keep them within range of the rebel officer for that first round or two, so I can take some of the strain off of needing to keep that HQ uplink available for activation. And I can just kind of push forward with the rest of the troops. Gideon keeps marching along with them, trying to get as much cover as possible. But yeah, having 130-point base T-47, and yeah, like you were saying, the fragility of them with the expensive point cost when they first came out. It turns out they had the perfect counters back when the game first came out, because it was wave 1 for that stuff, and everybody had DLT. Troopers everywhere, just able to ping, 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 and then just drop them out of the sky. But yeah, so keeping a core with the infantry to grab objectives if we're needing to hold that, or grab boxes or fix evaporators or that kind of thing, and making sure that we're staying within that little leadership bubble provided by Rebel Officer, while the T-47 goes and either takes out people grabbing other objectives on the other side, or clearing the way for my guys to move in. That's basically what I'm looking for.
Okay, excellent. So command cards then, obviously, you're not bringing anything particularly special because you just don't have access to them.
Right.
So I gather it's going to be the three standard, and then the three rebel ones, or because I don't think there's any other options there, is there?
No, not without getting into the battle forces. So yeah, I take what I can because I have to, but I've actually done pretty well trying to figure out the best with the sabotage communications is obviously the kind of the stickiest one, because I'm not really running any of those, so it's kind of a wasted activation for me, except for the ability on the card. And if I can time it right, it can really kind of mess up the opponent. So that's what I look for with that one. Other than that, covering fire can be really nice if I'm expecting contact. So like I said, my guys are pretty basic. They don't have a whole lot of wounds to go around there, because I've got so many other points in with the armored units. So keeping them, preserving them, again, that's hopefully Gideon keeping at least those humble dog tokens out there as much as possible to keep them alive and preserve them as long as we can.
Yeah, it feels like because obviously there's lots of options now in this game for commanders, for rebels, and for everybody else. But this list very much feels like it's not back to basics. I don't want to downplay the list at all, but it's like there isn't there's not a there isn't 2-star signings that you've got in there. It's just everyone is very good at the job that they do, and I think that's probably why the list is so good, because it's consistent. You're not relying on one big play. I imagine it's what to expect from them, and that they're going to be able to do what it is they need to do. I don't know if that's a fair statement or.
No, absolutely. That's bang on, really. There isn't a whole lot of variation there, so I've got to, and that's probably why it's my go-to list when I'm not sure what to play, because I've played it so much at this point that I know kind of what to expect out of every unit. The opposing forces can kind of throw me for a loop, especially if it's something newer that I'm not quite as experienced playing with. But then again, we love to eat AA5s for breakfast and the other kind of armor. It's still the best damn blaster in the game with on the T-47s. And then Rebels just chucking black dice at everything. It gets the job done when it needs to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's talk then, Matt, about the objective cards. What 4 objectives are you taking with you in your list?
So objectives are bombing run, bombing run, bombing run. But unfortunately, they won't let me do that. They keep telling me.
No, I'm sure your opponent wouldn't either.
So what I try to do is have objectives that are as least reliant as possible on keeping troops alive for as long as possible. So I start with recover the supplies. If I can get out there with my guys, push them forward real quick, grab the box, and then hide them the rest of the game, and let the T-47s just keep a no man's zone near there. Have the ATRTs ready to intercept or keep an overwatch up. It works out pretty well. Breakthrough. The surprising amount of long march with breakthrough combos that I've played keeps that in the game, just because air superiority and speed. Just it's I can make sure I'm keeping them shut down. I'll have my Mark II blasters out there holding the goal line defense there, and just kind of scoot in for the win at the end there. But love to play the breakthrough. Payload. That's my toughest one, but I have a lot of fun with it. I like playing it, so it stays in there. Probably not optimal by any stretch. And of course, bombing run because bombing run.
I think that's 7 bombing runs, Matt. I don't think you're allowed. You're allowed that
many.
Okay. So
I'll come up with some other words.
Of the 4 that are left, then, what's the one where you look at your opponent's hand and you just go, "Oh man, I just hope I want to veto that one because that's just not good for me whatsoever."
I would probably say key positions, because that's really depending on having your forces in place at the end of the game. That can be really kind of tricky. And forgive me if I'm wrong on this, but they need to be infantry units, so none of the other people can contest there. So that's definitely not something my list does very well.
Yeah, and what about hostage exchange? I hear a lot about hostage exchange, why it's absolutely broken for for force users, and obviously you're not running any in this list. Is that something you struggle with at all, or do you sort of have a plan for it if you come up with against it?
I think I've only played it like 3 times so far.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, I just don't run across it that much. But yes, I would absolutely try to get rid of it as well.
Cool.
Because like you said, force users can ruin your day with that kind of thing, just jumping in with lightsabers, choppy chop.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Deployment then, which 4 deployment options do you take with you?
Okay, so starting with hemmed in, I'm usually assuming I'm going to be red player because I play all 800 points as I try to with just about every list. But sometimes you get blue. But I do like hemmed in because I can comfortably kind of split my forces between, rebel officer shepherding the infantry, and then the rest of the guys doing their roll out, because it seems like it's tailor made for vehicle fun.
Especially those 2 T-47s. Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, and then I've got the battle lines, because I'm a traditionalist like that, and long march.
Okay, excellent. And same question again, really. And I mean, looking at your list, I'm not sure if there's anything that you would struggle with. But of the 4 that are left, is there one in particular that you do try to avoid?
I think disarray, just because it's one of the ones I have the least experience with, and knowing when to split and where, and trying to have my guys meet up where they'll be effective in covering what they need to, can be a little bit trickier on that. So I try to avoid that one whenever I can.
And I gather having only that single commander dishing out your orders as well, being at opposite corners of the board, does make that a little bit more difficult, I imagine, wouldn't it? So,
yeah, absolutely. It's a much more challenging scenario than if I just had hey, that's your side, this is my side.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Plus, there's all that walking around the table.
I was just going to say, do you know what? Pick a side, right? Just pick a side. Absolutely.
My side, your side.
And I like a little zonal area that's like, this is my domain whilst we're playing. So you don't cross that line, I don't cross that line. What about conditions then? What are you looking at for that side of things?
So conditions are basically, I'm looking for things that preserve my playmakers in there. So again, the T-47s. This is less about the rebel officer, more about my armor, it seems like. But he makes it all work. So anything that's going to screw over infantry, especially with like the Shadow Collective and the Rise of the Pikes, and like so many like light infantry units just kind of flooding the board. So I start with Minefield. Because hey, you go deal with that, and I can walk ATRTs into it if I need to. I don't care if they take a little bit of chip damage. Fortified positions, because it's going to help preserve my forces, because I'll probably be at a disadvantage there.
Yeah.
limited viz, so I can set up those kind of last first scenarios with the T-47. Plus, you can be really sneaky and try to catch people out earlier than they expect because they can just be so mobile,
Yeah.
and then hopefully avoid reprisal and hostile environment. So that's where I'm really counting on the rebel officer to keep my guys. Hopefully we're holding some cover, but if he's not, he's at least using that little inspire ability he's got to keep everybody going.
Yeah, and I gather, especially with like limited visibility, for example, you know that at least you're not going to have snipers picking your guys off round one from one side of the board, and you, as you say, you want to get to where you need to be fairly healthy. You don't want each one of your units to be 50% losses already. So yeah, and sometimes even just even if they don't do actual damage, the snipers, but the fact that they're dishing out those suppression tokens and things, reducing the number of actions that you've got per round and things. So yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So again, of the four that are left, is there any one in particular that you look at and go, yeah, I just really don't like going up against that?
Rapid reinforcements, because I hate rapid reinforcements. It doesn't matter what list I'm playing. I just don't like playing that one.
Is that just a personal thing, Matt, or is that
It is absolutely a personal thing, yes. I have a personal grudge against it. Supply drop, mostly because I know people really, really like it, and I don't like bringing extra cardboard to a cardboard-heavy game. So if you want to play it, go and bring your cards. That's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Plus, you probably have more infantry that can benefit from it.
Yeah, or somebody with like an infiltrator, something like that, as Dan was talking about with Iden and that sort of thing. So yeah, no, it makes sense. So for each of those, then, what would your utopia look like then, Matt? What does that look like for each of them? I've got a sneaky feeling I may know what one of those cards may be. You may have mentioned it once or twice, but what does your utopia look like? Where if you manage to get that going into a game, you go, yeah, I've got a really good chance of winning this.
It's breakthrough. No, I'm kidding. It's bomb run. But anyway, obviously that's it's just really good if you've got fast units. But other than that, other than the obvious, honestly, what you're talking about, if I could have paired like limited viz with a recover the supplies turn, so I can surge forward, grab the stuff, and then fade away, hopefully before the benefits run out, that's great.
Yep. Yeah. No, it makes sense.
I've already talked about how I do the breakthrough stuff, try to set that up. Other than that, payload. Yeah, that's still the stickiest one, but it's still so much fun to play. I knowing where my opponent's going to be putting his forces and where my guns need to be, that's what I like to do. So if I know they're going to be trying to push that payload or coming to counter mine, then I can plan for that, and that's where I have the most success, I think.
Almost like a preemptive strike, almost.
Yeah.
Cool, excellent, Matt. Well, thank you for running through the list. Let's have a little talk then around your matchups. What are you not enjoying at the moment coming up against with this list? Is there anything in particular where you just look down at them and just go, oh, God's sake, this is going to be another one of those games, or are you not too concerned about much?
I don't really like to focus on that too much. I don't mind the infantry heavy list. Obviously, things with a lot of AT can be problematic. Republic tends to be a thorn in my side just because they have the token sharing still and standbys and things like that can put out surprising amounts of damage. Like I think I'll be prepared for a round and then suddenly one of my airspeeders is out of the sky, or maybe some of those. Sabine is a big problem because one of the guys in our community plays them all the time and is very good at them. So just about as mobile as as my guys, and can jump in there, wipe out my infantry. So things that are going to be chasing down whatever my victory condition troops are for that round can be really problematic. Lightsaber wielders can be if they're playing them very cagey away from my blaster ranges and all that.
Yep.
But if they're not, they can go down pretty easily as well. It's dice, at the end of the day.
Yeah, because you've got some pretty heavy gun line there, haven't you? With those veterans and then the blaster troopers in there as well. Because I mean, what are they like? Is it four black, isn't it? With critical 2, which is which is really nice. You've obviously then got the rotary blasters on the ATRTs, which I'm assuming are there just to mow down any humanoid that thinks they're going to get anywhere near you, which is quite nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
the
Well,
rotaries are my all-purpose, whatever. I'm not sure if I can deal with it. I'll send them forward. So usually, I'll send them in to deal with the lightsaber guys first because surging to crit, crit's a crit. So
oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's and again, if you can. Hit them a few times with those, then it's pretty good. And they've got some nice stuff as well. They've, having the. I always find it strange that they've got armor, even though the guy riding them is like, it's a glorified motorcycle that he's riding. Really, when you think about it, like it's.
It's got a little shield at the front or something. He's kind of hiding behind.
But then they have like there's no weak, is there? They're not like you've got is it the ATST, not the ATSTs, the Walker for the Empire, where it's like it's got like weak at the rear or something and things, but like an ATRT is just, it's fine. It's like armor all the way around. It doesn't matter where you're shooting it from. So Paul, who I've been playing a couple of games with recently, he's a big fan of those and has been running them a lot, and they seem to either do absolutely amazing for him, or for some reason my pikes are able to just take them out in one or two turns, which is a little bit brutal. But no, look, it's a really interesting list, and I really like the fact that it's so unassuming. It's not flashy, but it is just an absolutely solid list. And as I say, it feels like you know what it's going to do, and it'll do it 99% of the times, which is, if you're playing any sort of games, that's kind of what you want, right? You don't want a game to be the toss of a coin, or the roll of a dice, as it may be. So yeah, how do you tend to deal with some of the sort of, let's use Dan's list, for example, that he was talking about with Iden, where and even Ellis's, which is theirs were just full of shenanigans and little plays, with Dan with Iden and putting her in the middle of the board. Ellis was talking about the way that he uses the I call them the minibuses, but the shuttle buses for moving up Black Suns and then bringing them back, and then moving them up and bringing them back. How do you find coming into a game against some of these lists that do have more sort of, I like to use the word shenanigans, but I suppose they are really shenanigan type players? Do you just not let it phase you, do what you need to do, and then just react as and when, or do you have a plan for any of those?
Usually the plan comes after I run into the shenanigans. So I know, Iden, and the way Dan plays him, he gets them in there into really tough situations where they're really hard to shift without like overexposing my guys. So if you're playing conservatively, keeping your gun lines with a big field of fire, bringing my T-47s in is like the last thing I want to do right there. I want to be picking off chunks of your forces.
Yeah.
So the way Dan does it is he's always seems to have like this nest of just high quality troops with a big volume of firepower. So I always got to be really careful about that. And unfortunately, that also threatens my my backline troopers, because he's going to probably be outranging me for a lot of the stuff, where I'll be tying them on a couple. I mean, my DLT-20 guys can only do so much if he's got more range on that.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with one range 4 character, isn't there? In I suppose two of them, one in each of the rebel troopers. So yeah, and you mentioned there that I think you spoke about earlier when we sort of was going through Gideon. You sometimes think about taking the extra, I always forget the name of it, but to give you basically take cover 2. You talked about taking the, potentially taking the electro binoculars, so that you've then got the option of, either doing the spotter or the take cover. Is there anything else that over the time that you've played it that you've tweaked, and things that you could, say, these are the absolute musts? So I'm gathering, Gideon and the T-47s are like the absolute must, but is there anything in there that's, that is disposable in your mind, where you could swap it out and free up some points for another heavy weapon here, or a bit of training or an upgrade card or something like that?
No.
Fair enough.
Yeah. No, so this is I did originally, the incarnation of this list had instead of the DLT 20s on the Rebel Troopers, they were the what are they, the CMO 93 troopers for the Rebel veterans. And in that way, I had Gideon with the portable scanner, not vigilance, so he could hand out those 2 tokens, which isn't a terrible way to do it, honestly, because the way the Rebel veterans are, they like to get those tokens a lot. But I found after play testing that I liked to throw 1 and keep vigilance on like a Rebel trooper squad, so they just keep that, and then nimble, it just keeps coming back, so I don't have to worry about it. And then I can, whichever squad's going to be also targeted, I try to use his thing. If I could squeeze a portable scanner in there with the vigilance, that would just be really, really nice. But it's really tight on points.
There's not a lot of meat on the bone, is there, left over?
No.
It's like it is a very, as you say, it's a 800. So you are, I assume, for the most part, the red player. There's no wiggle room there. How are you finding that then? Because obviously it feels like it used to be a much bigger thing, that bidding for the for the priority. How are you finding it when you're playing against people? Are people they tending to max, get to wherever they need to be, but it might be that they're 7, 9, 8 or something, just because there's no 2-point upgrade that they've got? Or are you seeing people that are sticking underneath that, maybe 7, 9, 5, maybe even lower, and foregoing a vigilance, for example, to try and get that blue player status? How do you see people doing that?
Most of the people I play just for casual games tend to max out their points. I know that tournament lists are seeing more of that return to having a little bit more of a bid, so you can try and control the flow of the match.
Yeah.
As we were kind of talking about, there's no real setup where I'm feeling extremely exposed, so I'd rather just use up all those points. And honestly, I like reacting better than trying to like exploit my plan. And there's enough, of the banning system in there that I can generally get something I feel like I can, at least compete in. And I can't think of really too many where just it's been a blowout and then that's it, situation. Yeah. Usually it's a pretty good game.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I'm really enjoying after coming back to Legion is the fact that I've played lots of games over the years, and some of them you just know that if you come up against a particular list with a particular opponent and it's a particular scenario and setup, you may as well just pack up and walk away, because you know exactly what they're going to do. And even with that knowledge, that there is nothing you can do about it, and that doesn't feel great at all. So I do like, I'm not a fan of turn 0 plays. I prefer, a bit like what you've just said, I prefer to have, play my games very reactive. Something happens here, and on the field, as a commander would do, right, is I'm going to react to that thing as and when it happens. And I just tend to find I just have more fun playing games that way. And I actually play competitive games in that way as well. I may have a loose idea in my mind in terms of what I'm going to do, but it can change in an instant if a character gets, or my opponent gets very lucky with dice, or I get very lucky with dice and manage to take something out. So yeah, I do prefer to play games in that way. Dan, I called you Dan then. Apologies, Matt. Even anything else you want to tell the viewers at home about this list before we sort of wrap up? Is there any words of wisdom you'd like to impart on them if they're going to go away and try this?
Yeah, definitely having fast movers like the T-47s or BARC speeders or whatever it is, or maybe the new swoop bikes that are out, can help you react to those situations where you're like, oh, Maul's coming forward right now and he's going to wipe out my guys, so I need to redeploy and make sure I can, welcome him with open blasters. Is great. Anecdotally, Gideon won me a game on turn 6 one time. We were doing a moisture evaporator game, and he had just put me over the top, the repair, to just put me over on points. But there was an enemy troop nearby that was going to be able to move in and cause damage to put it to a tie, and then they were going to win on points. So Gideon was able to activate and. Actually, no, he had to do the repair. He started in base to base, so he did the repair as his first action, then moved to engage the troopers on his next, and was able to tie them up for a round, and won the game as a result. So
excellent.
Yeah,
sacrificed himself for the greater good.
Exactly,
is
for
what
the
it
cause.
sounded like. Fantastic. Well, I really, really like this list, and as I've done with Dan's list and I did with Ellis's list, I have been trying them out because it's especially for I have been. So with when I go and play my little sort of local friendly casual games, I've been taking the list. Probably don't play them anywhere near you guys do, but I've been having some real fun with them because I think. I do play my Scum and Villainy. That is the one that I prefer myself. But I've been really enjoying playing some of these other rosters as well. And so far, I mean, I was already playing Scum and Villainy, so Ellis's was fine. But actually going back and playing with some Empire, I actually had to go back and paint my Iden. It was a reason for me to go back and paint Iden because she was one of the last characters that I purchased before I stopped playing. So I think she got an undercoat and a zenithal highlight, and that was it. She's been in the Star Wars Legion box under the bed since that happened. So yeah, it's been nice. So probably have to dust off those T-47s and maybe touch them up and definitely take this one out and give it a try. So Matt, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Been really, really good to have you on once again. Where can people find you?
Oh, sure. You can find me on Twitter at grn_Archer. I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/captain_Archer. And then I'm on Discord, very many Discords, as Outrider Matt or Captain Archer.
Yeah, the number of Discords you have to join as a content creator for anything is just it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, guys, make sure you go and check out the Outriders podcast. It's really, really good. I think I've mentioned it before, Matt. It's the thing that I used to keep me kind of in touch with Legion even when I wasn't playing Legion. So from me as somebody who consumes your content, thank you.
We love touching people.
Thank you very much for that. So it's really good. So yeah, make sure you go and check out Matt and Dan's podcast. Quick reminder to everyone that we are giving away a Star Wars Legion core starter box, very kindly donated to us by the guys at Elysium War Games, the sponsor of the channel. So if you want to be with a chance to win that, all you need to do is just leave a comment on this video, and you could be a lucky winner of picking up a box, which I think they've gone up in price quite a lot, Matt. So I think they're probably a better price than what they would have been 2 years ago. So
leave 5 comments.
They're getting miniatures are getting it's getting expensive again, and I think the current climate is only going to push the costs up and up and up. So who knows? I may have to reduce from every single army of every single game that I play to just picking the actual ones that I take out of the box and play. Maybe that's the sacrifice I have to make. But yeah, guys, thank you for joining us once again, Matt. Really appreciated, and we'll catch you next time.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks.
Cheers. Well, there we go, guys. That is another episode of Scum and Villainy. Hopefully you've really enjoyed it. And once again, a big thank you to Matt from the Outriders podcast for joining me and taking us through his double T-47 with Gideon, aka the Rebel Officer list. Definitely one that I'm going to be trying out. Slightly different vibe to this one because there was not really any big flashy plays to talk about, so we did a bit more of a deep dive on some of those objective and things that he likes to play. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I always enjoy having the guys on from the Outriders podcast. They're a really nice set of guys. So make sure you show them some love. Head on over to their YouTube channel, wherever else. Drop them a follow, drop them a like. But check out the podcast as well. It's really, really good. Definitely good painting things to listen to. So make sure you go and check that out. Guys, I mentioned we've got the Star Wars Legion core box giveaway happening at the moment. kindly sponsored by Ellis and James from Elysium War Games. So if you want to be with a chance to win that, you need to make sure you leave a like and a comment on this video. But the way that we're going to do it is it's tied in to the Scum and Villainy show. So once we get to probably episode 10, something like that, let's say that, episode 10, once we've done episode 10, we will do the prize draw the following week. It'll be a random video, and then it'll be a random comment from that random video. So to be with the best chance possible, you need to make sure you leave a like and a comment on each of the Scum and Villainy episodes that we do. If you want to be and you want to join me for this show as well, if you're a Star Wars Legion player and you want to share your 800 point list with us, reach out and let me know. It would be great to have some more of you guys on. We've got some shows already lined up with some other content creators, but it's open to anybody. If you want to join me for a show, just drop me a message on Discord or on Facebook and let me know. Guys, if you have liked this video, please do leave a like. It really does help with the old YouTube algorithm thing. And hopefully you like the new setup. We've got a little, sort of little strip light here with my two of my favourite characters from Star Wars behind me there. And I don't know if you can see little Grogu in the corner here as well. Yeah, if you did like it, please leave a like. It does help. If you want to support us even further, we do have our Patreon up and running now as well. And a huge shout out to everyone who already supports us on Patreon. You do help with the day-to-day running of the channel. You're also the ones that have helped me be able to fund all the equipment I needed to be able to do the live battle reports. So hopefully you've been enjoying them as well. So a big shout out to everyone who's already supported us. But if you don't have to, it's always, all of my content is never behind a paywall. The option is just there if you do want to help out. Guys, as always, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, may the Force be with you.